Hello, and a very warm welcome to you. Today, we're going to dive into a really profound piece of pastoral guidance from the Quran. What's so amazing about it is how it starts by speaking to a prophet's very personal grief, but then it just blossoms outwards to tackle some of the biggest human questions we all face. Questions about faith, about denial, and really about how we see the world around us. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with this moment of divine comfort. Then we'll dig into the psychology of why some people just don't seem to get the message. After that, we'll look at a repeating pattern in human history, walk through some seriously logical challenges, and then we'll wrap it all up by getting crystal clear on what a messenger's true role is in all this. So our journey kicks off in a very personal, very human place. It's a direct message of comfort from God to the Prophet Muhammad, who's really feeling the immense weight of his mission and all the rejection that comes with it. Now, just look at the approach here. First, the text completely acknowledges his pain. It validates his feelings, saying, "We see you, we know this hurts." But then it immediately reframes the whole situation with this crucial pivot. It's basically saying, hang on, this isn't actually about you. And here's that big distinction. The passage argues that the pushback he's getting isn't a personal shot at his character. No, it's a deep, fundamental rejection of the divine signs he's presenting. And that shift, from they hate me to they're disagreeing with the message, well, that's the first step in lifting that heavy burden right off his shoulders. And then it adds this other layer of comfort, which is just brilliant. The text places the prophet's struggle right inside this long historical pattern. It's like saying, hey, you're not alone in this, not by a long shot. Others have walked this exact path, they stayed patient, and you know what? Divine help always came. It's this incredibly powerful message of solidarity and reassurance. Then, just when you think you've got the scale, the perspective expands dramatically. We zoom out from human history to the entire natural world. The text presents every living thing, every creature on the ground, every bird in the sky, as a community, a living, breathing sign. And this word is everything here. By calling animal populations communities, just like our own nations, the text is laying out this kind of beautiful ecological theology. It suggests that every species is part of its own ordered society, and their very existence points to a much bigger divine plan. So this brings up a huge question, right? If these signs are literally everywhere, in history, in nature, all around us, why do so many people just miss them? Well, the passage offers a pretty deep psychological diagnosis for that. The language here is just incredibly potent. You see, denial isn't framed as some simple intellectual disagreement. It's described with these powerful sensory metaphors. It's like being deaf, unable to speak, and completely lost in the dark. It's a state of being, a condition that actually prevents a person from seeing reality for what it is. And what you get is this really stark contrast. On one side, you've got the people who listen. They're receptive, they're engaged, they actively respond. And on the other, you have the spiritually dead who are just closed off. They literally cannot hear. The ability to respond, the text is arguing, has everything to do with the internal state of your heart, whether it's open or closed. Okay, so now the passage kind of switches gears. It takes us on a tour through history to show us this repeating pattern in human behavior. It explains how both the tough times and the good times are actually tests of our sincerity. The text lays out this super predictable, almost tragic human cycle. A crisis hits, and what do? We instinctively turn to a single higher power in this moment of pure, raw sincerity. But once the danger passes, once we're comfortable again, that memory just starts to fade. We forget how desperate we were, and more often than not, we slip right back into our old ways. And here, we get a specific case study. Past nations were tested with hardship, to see if it would bring them to a place of humility. When that didn't work, they were given the opposite test. They were given everything, total prosperity. But that abundance, without any gratitude, became an even bigger trap. It led to careless partying and then sudden collapse. It's a really powerful warning. All right, get ready because the tone is about to shift big time. We move away from storytelling and history, and the passage makes this direct appeal to pure, cold reason through a series of really sharp, logical questions. This first question, it's almost like a logic trap. It forces you to imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. And in that moment of pure truth, when everything else is stripped away, who would you call out to? It really corners the listener into admitting that in a true crisis, all those other things we rely on just fall away. We turn to one single, ultimate source of power. The next challenge goes even deeper. It gets more fundamental. It's saying, forget about external disasters for a second. What if you lost your most basic abilities? Your hearing, your sight? Which one of these other things you worship could possibly bring them back? It's a devastatingly effective argument designed to show the total powerlessness of anything else.
And this last question in the series really ties it all together by linking consequences directly to actions. It basically asserts a principle of divine justice, suggesting that when disaster strikes, it's not random. It's a direct result of wrongdoing. It's asking the listener to agree that, yeah, that seems like a just and logical outcome.
So, after that pretty intense logical workout, the passage brings the focus right back to where we started, with the messenger himself. It concludes by being crystal clear about his role, and, just as importantly, his limits. The prophet is essentially told, look, you need to be absolutely clear with people about what you are not. He doesn't control God's resources, he can't see the future, and he's not some supernatural being like an angel. He is, first and foremost, a human being. And that right there is the whole source of his authority. It doesn't come from any personal power or special ability. It comes purely and simply from one thing, his total commitment to following the divine message that is revealed to him. His job is to transmit the message, not invent it. And the whole section, the whole journey ends with this final echoing question. It circles all the way back to our theme of perception versus denial, of spiritual blindness versus sight. And it leaves the listener, you and me, with a direct and personal challenge that sums it all up. The choice is between seeing and not seeing. So, will you not give it some thought?